Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we run through Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Did you say
1 minute at a time? I did say. I'm the Admiral, Pete Mummert.
I'm the regular Tom Taylor.
I'm no longer Gerald Christopher Marcus Porter. I'm now Gerald Christopher Necton of Heartland Porter. My new saint name.
Okay.
Aw.
You totally made that up. And I am
No, he's a
Professor
real
Christy
guy.
Porter. Okay. Fine.
Hey, he was born in 468 A.D. in Wales. Saint.
Because I was going to ask.
Yeah, thank goodness. Everybody write this down, kids.
Roger that. Got it. Okay. Not the other nectar of Heartland, whatever. Not the other one.
Of the Southampton Heartlands.
No.
Southampton, California.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about minute 56. Minute 56 begins with Brody expressing his preference not to eat meat, and it ends 60 seconds later with Sallah not punching a camel.
I'm going to quote something here. Marcus says this.
Okay.
Does anyone understand a word I'm saying here? And there's actually a flapping chicken feather on his chin.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put this in the center of the room.
Just lay it there gently
Yeah.
for everyone to see.
Do you think he flew on Lao Che Airlines?
Oh, maybe.
That's
Yes.
good. That's
Yes.
good. I like that.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll keep it all, mellow. I know I had a difficult time last minute, and I'll collect myself. It's fine. I didn't sleep well, but it's all right. I do have. We learned something here. Apparently, it's still 1938, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Marcus
Sure.
Brody is a vegetarian.
You know who else was a vegetarian in 1938?
John Bolt.
What? Oh, my word.
That was
No,
unnecessary.
who I was. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Well, that is a good another name for Adolf Hitler.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Pete.
Look
Yeah.
how he did that.
He was very famously a vegetarian in 1938. So it was a
vegetarian.
thing. Like there were actual vegetarians in 1938.
Well, let me just throw this out. Do you guys? I mean, I envision Marcus as a guy who whatever Marcus you choose, whether he's the bumbling museum curating idiot, or he's my Marcus, in shining armor.
King of the wild frontier.
Yeah, exactly. I still think he's a guy who would probably eat truffle dipped steak tartare.
I'm actually not convinced that he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he's just He's
Okay.
making a smart aleck crack to this lady to say,
Okay.
"Get your chicken away from me."
He doesn't want to
Oh.
say your food is gross. He's
Yeah.
saying, or your chicken's gross. He's saying, no, that's not for me.
He's being charming and funny.
Yeah.
He is very polite. It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, he knows all the local customs.
Sure.
yeah.
That's
Like wearing a chicken feather on his chin.
Uh-huh.
If the feather lands on your chin, you just wear it. It's
Yeah.
true.
It's good luck.
And I'm going to take some issue with Jerry in these minutes. I'm going to stand up for my friend Marcus Brody.
Marcus is doing fine.
I think he's doing fine, and if you look at him, he is covered in bling. Like he's wearing a gold pocket watch from the buttonhole on his lapel, just bling hanging off everywhere, and he's not afraid. He's like a boss. He's like, you know what? I'm coming into this town. I'm being me.
Yeah. He's good.
He's not afraid. He's not the scared, bumbling guy that he can be interpreted perhaps as being in this movie.
So would he be wearing less jewelry if he were a bumbler? I'm not following, I guess. Sorry.
He'd be less Marcus. I think Pete's saying that this is Marcus. This is the Marcus
Oh,
we
okay.
always knew, and he's got a chicken feather on his chin, and that shouldn't knock him down to goofdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there is this argument people are making that some people like to make that, and I used to make this myself, that Brody's kind of a bumbling character. But this is also 1938, and Marcus seems to know Sallah. And so if he's traveled already to Egypt in 1938, and now he's visiting, this land on the Mediterranean between Syria and Turkey, and travel was really difficult, like a transatlantic flight back then, and then getting to the Middle East, that wasn't an easy journey. So I think the fact that he's made this journey and he's completely game for it, I think says a lot about his character.
Those are kind words. I'm not sure I'm convinced, though, that he has traveled like this before. I mean, I don't even know if he knows Sallah. I don't know if he... I mean, well, they do seem to recognize each other. I mean, obviously, like, Salah's like...
Well, Sallah recognizes him.
Yeah, and then he says, oh, Sallah, what a relief.
Maybe Salah's come to the States?
Well, yeah, but that seems less likely that a digger, unless he's actually an archaeologist, would have come to the States. It seems more likely that Brody would have met him somewhere in the Middle East or in Europe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be as simple as Marcus has never been here to Iskendron. Like maybe he's been to Cairo. Maybe he's been to some other place that Sallah was. I mean, the movie does want us to see. I mean, it's a gag that Marcus is a goof, and that he's not in. That he's not. He can't handle the situation on his own or something. But like you're saying, Pete, I don't think that is necessarily not the Marcus we got in Raiders. I feel like there's a consistency here.
I realized I went bananas in the last minute, and I said everything there was to say about my position. I'm unwavering in that. I'll keep it simple. Marcus is cosmopolitan. I think he's traveled all over the world. I think although he is dressed meticulously and he's super pimped out and bling, and I agree with you, Pete, there. I mean, I don't know if I'm not buying any of this. I think this is just ridiculous. That this guy, he speaks English and I guess ancient Greek, and he can't navigate the world at all outside of like a desk in the administration building of Marshall College.
But he made it to Iskendron, whatever, Kingdom of Hittai in 1938 on his own. Yeah. With no help apparently from anybody else.
Yeah, which isn't like London or Paris or, it's not a, it's not a bustling metropolis.
I mean, we're not giving, I wouldn't give him very many points because he shows up and he's completely, out of sorts and sixes and sevens and no, what's going on here? Oh my word. And this is a guy who's supposed to be, I mean, he deals, I'm assuming, he purchases indies, his trinkets and antiquities, and I mean he needs to know all about these cultures just because he purchases them, doesn't he?
But he's like Indy's dad. He's not a field mouse. He's a curator. He studies the stuff from afar, and he doesn't need to necessarily get his hands dirty on digs or in exotic places necessarily. I mean, okay, listen, Gerry. I'm not fighting you on this because you have all sorts of excellent points and all sorts of ground to stand on. I just think that, I mean, yes, I would love to see Marcus just kind of breeze in with like a cigarette dangling off his finger and kind of like, oh, Iskendron, eh? And just kind of like just totally fine and, tossing a coin to some kid in the street and stuff and, grabbing an apple. But as much as I'd love to see that, we didn't get that. We got this. And I'm just saying that this guy who is, he's out of his element. He's not doing great. He needs some help. He needs somebody to take his hand and show him where to go. But I think I believe that is still the Marcus we got in Raiders. I don't think that there's like a schism between. I don't think they ruined the character. I think it's still the same guy. I'm trying, Gerry. I'm trying.
All right, listen, sis. You're my flesh and blood. You came out of our mother's womb before I did.
Ugh. Ow, ew, gross.
You left the place a mess.
Jerry still hasn't cleaned up. Yeah.
So I'm just and you work in academia.
Meaning
without naming names. Are people
Yes.
in academia and say in administration or that sort of thing, maybe professor emeritus, that type of thing, are they this stupid
Well, yes, they are. But that's not the right question. That's not at all the right question. The right question is, do I believe that something untoward has happened to Marcus in the last 2 years? And the answer is yes. Something, he was thrown from a jalopy, perhaps, or
he got hit in the back of the head he got pistol whipped by a guy in a suit and a fez.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
because you haven't weighed in on this Marcus business yet, have you? So what's your?
No, but I'm trying like Tommy. I'm trying to give folks a pass. This is the guy we got, and I think it's nonsense. And I'm trying to figure out if there was a better reason than just a gag for them to do this. And
What sucks is I do think that this came from a gag, which is really too bad.
Yes, and that's the worst. That's why it really hurts. You're already down on the ground, and then you find out your best friend kicked you over somebody got behind you on all fours and they pushed you over right in the middle of a playground, and it was your best friend, and he did it just so he could impress the brand new kid. It's just like a stupid
well,
gag.
faculty do that all the time, Jeff. I mean, that's just standard, really.
It's just a
And
gag.
I still don't buy that it's just a gag, actually, because I think it's equally likely that this was where George Lucas and Steven Spielberg wanted to take the character originally. Like we got so little of him in Raiders, we all built our own backstory, like we built our own Clone Wars backstory or Anakin Skywalker's backstory. And whether we like what we got or not, I don't think this is contradictory to who we saw in Raiders. It's contradictory to who you saw in Raiders, but maybe not what
I'm going to pull out the Tommy card here. The Tommy card is this card. It's this card.
Okay.
Every single thing about Marcus Brody and Raiders, I understand it was only like 5 minutes and 32 seconds, but every single thing about the character was serious.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There was not a
that's
single ounce
Yeah.
of
That's right.
that guy. Yeah, it was serious. As a matter of fact, he was the voice of caution and reason when it came to Indy going out. Indy was, he's the guy packing, and, Marcus is trying to instill some, you got to take this seriously here, Indy. This isn't a small thing. He's the voice of reason and caution, and he's serious.
He's a grown-up.
Yeah, I haven't seen him do a single thing in this movie that has anything to do with that at all.
Oh, see, that's not fair. That's an
Well,
exaggeration.
okay, all right. Say
I'm so angry at you right now because I am notoriously recalcitrant about this kind of thing. And I think you have won me over to your negativity here.
Oh, no. Wow. Wait a minute.
Really? That's so
I'm
sad.
throwing in the gold pocket watch hanging
was
from
easy.
my lapel. And,
whoa,
yeah.
that was easy.
Shoot.
What's next on your list, Jerry?
that hit me below the belt. There wasn't a moment in Raiders where he wasn't serious.
So sad when you convince Pete.
I know.
But that's this whole movie, though. That's like, you could say that about every aspect of this movie. Oh, they did this almost exact thing in Raiders, but it wasn't goofy. Or, like they
Hey, look,
any of it.
I'll say it
Marshall Collins.
every minute. I'll say it. The hardest thing about this whole movie is having Indiana Jones have a dad, and they bullseyed that. It's amazing. I love Sean Connery in this. He's incredible. I believe he's Indy's dad. Now the layup, the simple free throw is Marcus Brody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fantastic character in Raiders with only 5.5 minutes or whatever on screen. He was great.
You know what's too bad? I don't want this to be true, but I bet it is. I bet it's much easier, just quicker and easier to handle Marcus in an adventure as a guy, a fish out of water, a guy who can't handle it, a guy who's kind of goofy, where we would want him to be, like the erudite, cool, collected, barely sweats, he's got the whole thing figured out. Like kind of just sort of like, just sort of smoothly, just kind of like strolling through the movie and just like having a fine time and like, whatever. Like reading the paper while Indy's beating somebody up or something.
Sure.
Like it would be harder to write that, but that's kind of what we want. And that's kind of how we see Marcus and what we're expecting from him. So even if, to me, it makes and by the way, I'm trying like a drowning man to like Marcus in this movie, but I'm kind of doing it. But I mean, it's a downhill fight, and I'm not totally succeeding even for myself in my own headcanon.
I want to see a poll. I think we should put a poll up on Facebook because I'm curious where people feel, what people feel about this other than us.
Same guy, not same guy.
There's got to be a caveat here, and it's got to be people who've actually seen Raiders first. Because if you have people, if you're introduced to Marcus Brody in The Last Crusade, well, you won't have a problem. You're like, sure, whatever. Right. He's funny. He's clever. He's cute. I love him. He's a doddering old man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: did they just need somebody to be the doddering old guy, and this is the only character they had to, they had to consolidate? So, like,
well, see, that's disturbing because why would they need that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Why do they need somebody to be the doddering old guy?
They don't need somebody to be the doddering old man. Yeah, they don't. If he had been...
But, I would have liked it better if they had had some doddering old guy and they had left Marcus, to be this more serious, cautious guy. And they had, brought in some clown. Not Sallah.
Yeah.
I don't want Sallah to be the clown, but I would have believed it more. But
why do we need a clown?
Probably.
He's a little bit of a clown, too.
I don't know.
I know.
We don't need a clown.
Did
we
I
don't
write
need
the
a
movie?
clown.
Send out the clowns.
Why did you write this movie like this, Christy?
Yeah, come on. Who said you
didn't. It wasn't me.
Okay, if we do have a poll, in all seriousness, if we do have a poll about this, and I think it's an excellent idea, one of the options needs to be, because this is my stance, that yes, he's goofy, and of course I'm disappointed in the way he's treated for from this point on in the movie. I think up until now he's been fine. I don't know why Jerry's so pissed at him the entire time.
No,
I
get it. He's fine.
This point on, he's they're just treating him as he's a not a punchline exactly, but he's a running comedy gag. So, but my point is that this isn't necessarily not Marcus. The Marcus we saw in Raiders, that we saw him in a school, we saw him dealing with, museum pieces, talking to army guys. That was his element. This is not his element. I had the Gore Vidal line last time. I thought that was kind of clever. That, if you took Gore Vidal and put him in the situation, he might be exactly like Marcus right here. And you wouldn't expect that. But I guess that does make sense. Why would he be in control of this kind of situation? This isn't his thing at all. So I think, I wish we weren't getting this Marcus, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that this isn't Marcus.
But I mean that completely goes against the 5 minute and 32-second serious Marcus we got in Raiders.
It doesn't, though. It doesn't.
But that's not a lot of data.
It's not a lot of data, and it's all very specific data. It's like,
It's not a lot of data, but it's 100% of the data that we have to build the character.
Okay, if we had seen him on an archaeological dig for 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and he was one kind of guy, and then he wasn't that kind of guy here, that would be one thing. But we saw him in a school in a suit, talking to other guys in suits.
That was something puzzling that I thought. So it was puzzling when Indy's dad says, you didn't bring Marcus into this, like he would expect Marcus to have a hard time.
Right.
But then what's so strange is then later on he's like, I made all that up.
That's a goofy moment.
So which is it that his dad thinks it is?
Yeah.
Does his dad think Marcus is goofy, or does his dad think Marcus is completely capable, or does his dad think Marcus is goofy but not horribly goofy?
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but there are a lot of points in this movie where people only say things so the next character can say their thing. They say things that actually don't make any sense just as a setup for something that makes more sense or something.
Sure.
All right, well then I need to move on to something else.
Okay.
Yeah, let's change the subject to is Sallah been ruined?
Has Sallah been...
No, Sallah hasn't been
ruined.
No, Sallah hasn't been... No, but I did want to say that Sallah and Indy's hats are natural enemies.
Oh, why?
Yeah, they are natural enemies. So, So I learned that in 1925, there was the Western hat law. The hat law. So, Pete, you might know this, because of all of us, you would be the only person who would know about the hat law of 1925. So,
I know nothing about this.
Oh, well, then I am pleased to tell you.
Is this with Ataturk?
Yes.
I knew about the hat law.
Oh,
Playing the part of Pete tonight will be Jared.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so then you would agree that the hat law makes their hats natural enemies.
Yeah.
You are a hat guy, Jared.
Yeah.
It's true. So there was a new dress code, and Ataturk said there will be no more fezzes. You have to have a solid hat, and that was step one. You need to have a solid hat, but that allows for the fezzes, which were old-fashioned and symbols of the oppressive Ottoman Empire. So then they had to have a step two, and step two is they had to have a brim.
Oh.
So you know what Ataturk wore? A fedora. Not kidding. He wore a fedora. So this makes Sallah and Indy's hats natural-born enemies.
That's
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nice work, Christy.
In the first 2.5 months after this law was put into place, 808 people were arrested and 57 were hanged.
God,
for wearing the fez.
man,
Yeah.
you must have really liked
So-
that fez.
Well, you know what's weird about that though?
Yes.
Like if you, I don't know if you've been to Turkey, Christy, but I know you have, Jerry. If you go to Turkey, almost everybody in their homes has a picture of Ataturk. He's like the FDR of
Yeah.
Turkey.
Because he westernized the place.
Yeah, yeah. But in so many of those pictures, he's wearing a brimless hat. It's kind of like it looks almost like a Russian cold winter hat. It's like a tall hat with no brim.
Maybe that was 1924.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Taken-
But that's weird. It's like his famous picture is him wearing a proscribed hat.
Or maybe he walked it back after,
Maybe.
Maybe.
after all the deaths and such.
Well, I have a question
so-
here about Sallah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wait. No. I have to go
Yes.
on. Last
Yeah.
idea. So nobody would have been upset about Sallah wearing it because he wasn't a Turk. He was a
There you go.
traveler. He was from Cairo,
Can
so
wear what
that
he
was all
wants.
right.
Solid.
He can wear what he
That's right.
wants. And it turns out that where they were is Kenderan, right?
Yeah.
Was actually French mandated Syria. So anybody could wear whatever hats they wanted to at the time until they cracked down.
wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now I'm out of hat facts. So we can move on.
Well, I've got a question about Salah's outfit as well.
Oh, all right.
Well, I'm a little surprised that he shows up so rumpled. Like I was expecting him to show up like calm and cool and collected, and he's all rumpled. But what's going on with this shirt? Is this a cummerbund, or is this
I was puzzled
a
by
weird shirt with two different fabrics?
That is.
I
I
very
thought it was a
different.
cummerbund, but a really big
Yeah.
one.
Super short tie.
And,
Yeah.
and I can't remember. Is it cummerbund
I think it is. Yeah.
or cumber? It can be
People
either.
pronounce it with a B.
And
well, I think
not
people
very
pronounce it.
gummable.
Yeah,
That's where it came from. Yeah.
that's where it came from. Yeah.
First kid who had to go to prom and strap that thing on. I think that's what it is. It's like
Obviously.
it's a very wide like wrap thing around his whole middle.
yeah.
But it feels like it's got. Does he have suspenders attached to that as well?
I don't know if it's attached to that or just underneath it, going to his pants or something.
And he's got a lot of bling too. He's got a gold chain around his neck and like a fancy bracelet, and like these guys are not afraid
That's
for
a
anything.
good point. And Pete, I know that you have a fantastic bedtime story about Salah's tie.
Yes, I'm sure Pete has a fantastic bedtime story about.
Did
his
you take
tie.
a good look at it? It's a little reminiscent of the Evil Eye. A little
It is,
bit.
yeah. It does look like a red version of the.
Then they're in Turkey, so
Yeah.
might be appropriate.
It also sort of reminiscent of the headpiece to the staff of Ra and the sun shining through it.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Well, what?
He probably got it from T Public.
Why is his tie so short?
That was a 30s thing. A lot of people wore super short.
Yeah.
Oh,
like I got
really?
a couple of ties from the 30s, and they're super short like that.
I thought maybe he just put on that much weight.
Well, he might have too. Yeah,
This was the
I'm not
largest
gonna-
tie I could afford.
Yeah,
Well, so when Sallah greets Marcus with the, he goes, Mr. Brody, and he goes, Marcus Brody, sir. And he lets out this hearty laugh, and he grabs Marcus's shoulders and dusts them off and straightens his suit.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That chicken
He
feather off
pats
him.
him down.
yeah, and is there a word for that type of greeting?
mothering.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's what that
It's
is.
a friendly primp.
I couldn't figure out what he was
He
doing.
grabs his shoulders and he dusts them and he kind of squares them off.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? We all know that greeting, but what is it? And when do you do it?
I don't know that greeting.
I think that's Sallah taking charge and taking care of Brody because he knows he can't himself. Because Brody immediately says, "You're on your own," and Brody says, "Yes, but don't panic." Yeah. And that leads me to believe there's some backstory here that everybody knows Brody's going to panic, and so Salah's kind of okay. I'm going to take care of this guy.
I see.
I actually just took that as like Sallah was expecting to see Indy, and he was worried that he wasn't there.
Oh, maybe.
And Brody's just saying, "No, everything's under control."
Do you think Sallah regrets being there if Indy's not there? Like, do you think, oh God, why am I here with this guy?
He doesn't seem to be. Salah's a natural. He's a natural host. He's excited to be there. He's excited to help.
He's affable.
Yeah.
He's
You know what's weird is
affable.
Sallah asks, where is Indy? And he does it too quickly. It's way too quickly because he hasn't even looked around and like Indy could be 10 feet away buying dates.
That's true.
Yeah, he kind of goes,
true.
Marcus Brody, sir, where's Indy?
Yeah, that's a good point.
He wants to ask him about that hug he barely got back at the Bantu win. Got a beef with him.
Yeah, that's right.
Is this one of those weird moments
That's
where
right.
like two friends of a mutual friend meet and the mutual friend is not there and it's just super awkward and weird?
So, what's your favorite thing about Indy?
Yeah.
That's exactly what.
How's your hat?
That's exactly what happened to you two guys. What? I both know you.
Oh, my word.
I know Pete and I know Tommy, but you guys don't know each other.
We didn't.
Pete, you got one of them little short 30s ties too.
It's true. Every time I talk to Tom, like, hey Tom, how you doing? Where's Jared?
Yeah.
But you give him like a big robust greeting at first.
Yeah.
Just to...
Dust off my shoulders.
Yeah, who's squaring off who?
Straighten his cargo shorts.
Well, why does Marcus tell Sallah that Indy is in Austria a slight detour? Like, why doesn't he say, "Oh, Indy's rescuing his dad who was kidnapped and held in a castle"? I mean, like, what is a slight detour? Is that a euphemism for, Indy? He's getting his mom's earlobes licked.
You.
He's I think that's just like shorthand for now, and then he's going to get into it later when they're on a bus or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, why doesn't he just tell him like, "Oh, he went to rescue his dad. They figured out where his dad is."
Yeah.
But this is kind of him being suave. He's like, it's kind of a James Bond thing, kind of a James Bond thing to say.
No biggie.
Oh, just a slight detour. Yeah.
But
flesh wound.
I think it's pretty important, right? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think he's keeping it from
Well,
Sallah. I think he'll
yeah.
get there. It just they
Okay,
just,
all right,
all
right.
just saw him, and yeah.
But you're winning me back, Tom. I hate this too.
Okay.
Because Brody, when the Nazi Sinister in the script, he's just the Sinister Man approaches. Which, by the way, if I lived in 1938, that's exactly how I would dress.
what do you mean if you lived in 1938?
absolutely.
That's exactly how you dress.
You could pull that off.
You
too.
just dress that way now. I can FaceTime you right now and you'd look like that. Be staring
But
at
I
that
like
guy.
that Brody is he's savvy enough that as soon as he sees the guy, he puts the map away. Like he starts telling Saul about the map. He's like, "Oh, this map will show you it was drawn by," and as soon as he sees these guys approaching, he puts it right back in his pocket.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He's on point. He's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so see, I have a thing here. When that guy walks up, when the Sinister, what do they call him? The Sinister Man?
Sinister Man.
Sinister Man walks up and he intercepts Marcus and he does a bow and Marcus perfectly counter bows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
which I like.
That's
Yeah, I do too.
proof that he is blending in and he knows all the local customs. You would never counter bow like that.
He's ducking to like not get hit in the head by the guy's bow. The sharp little
Yeah, I'm
snap.
not sure it's a counter
It's-
bow.
that's the
It's a don't
local
hit me in the
custom in Eskedron.
Why do I don't know why, but I always want this guy, the sinister guy, to be Matthew Broderick. I always think it is Matthew Broderick with sunglasses.
God,
Oh.
people think
looks a
I'm
little like
weird
him.
with non sequiturs.
I'm just saying.
You want the sinister guy to be Matthew Broderick?
He looks like Matthew Broderick, like a young Matthew Broderick with a hat and glasses.
What is going on?
little bit.
Okay. Sinister Broderick
Yeah.
is what they call
Maybe I'm
them.
thinking Broderick Crawford. I forget.
No, definitely not Broderick Crawford. Those are pretty sweet glasses, though. They're like the Tote Spring collection.
Oh, they're very sweet glasses.
You don't think that looks a lot like him being Sloane's dad, picking her up at the high school? Matthew Broderick, Ferris Bueller with the hat and the glasses.
Oh, like you have to
So
explain
that's
it.
how it is in their family.
Yeah, you have to explain it. That's just totally
Call me
random.
sir,
I mean,
God damn it.
can you like who can get away with wearing those glasses?
Oh, you know
Maybe
what?
you could, Pete.
That guy
Who?
can.
I did for like a month in high school. I wore
But
this for
did
about a
and you looked weird.
month. I did. It was
I didn't
forced.
want to tell
Like high
you. I remember the picture. I remember the
Yeah.
picture. There's a picture of you in your kitchen with your mother. And you looked really weird.
And
Trying to
people-
impress my mom with my awesome sunglasses.
She was
Yeah.
impressed, honey. Don't worry.
Took her to the
Pete,
dance. It
now,
was awesome.
Pete, you might be able to pull that off. You might be able to. I don't know. Those
think
are
Pete
hard.
could.
Are they like
Maybe.
driving glasses or something?
They look
or-
like Totes glasses. They're
Yeah.
the same round
Oh,
glasses.
yeah.
Yeah,
But they're
they're
like Totes
absolutely.
glasses, just tinted.
Do they serve a purpose, or is it just sort of a form thing, a style
They
thing?
make you look cool.
I think it's just a style thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, they're just glasses.
Relax,
Yeah.
dude.
Well,
Jesus.
you know what? I have a huge question here. I'm dying to know if you guys pick up on this. Is Sallah in love with Marcus?
All right.
No,
all
because-
right, all right.
because-
You have just lost your mind. You've just
Is,
lost.
Sa-
I mean,
is,
it's,
is
we're
Sallah
done.
is
We're done
Sallah
with
in
that
love
one.
with Matthew Broderick? No, because he
No.
tells that guy, the sinister guy says, oh, we have a car for you, and Marcus Brody says, oh, at your service, and Sallah says, and I am his.
Yeah.
No, he says I'm your
He says,
servant.
I'm your
Brody
service.
says,
Okay.
I'm your
No,
servant.
Sallah says,
Yeah.
I am his.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, he goes, yeah, okay, he says, I'm your service.
So wait, you're saying he's in love with Marcus or he's in love with Matthew Broderick?
No, it's he's in love with Marcus. It's the only thing I can think of, and I am his.
No, I'm his servant.
He does say it like super like eagerly, like, hi, I'm
Sure.
with Marcus. Hi.
I did not catch that at
Mrs.
all. You're
Brody.
saying he goes, I'm your servant, and he goes, and I am his.
No, he's protecting
yeah.
Mark. He's
Yeah,
protecting.
Marcus
stepping
does
in.
say, I'm
I
your
thought it
servant."
was like a
Yeah.
weird edit. Like they just chopped the movie off. I figure they don't care about Marcus. They don't care about.
Jer, I think your hat is too tight. Whatever hat you're wearing, it is.
So he says,
too
I'm
tight.
your
Brim and no
servant,
brim.
and he
That's the
says,
thing.
and I am his servant.
Yeah.
servant.
Yeah.
He's like
I
making his
didn't catch
presence
that
at all.
known so the guy doesn't mess with Marcus.
So he just goes, and I am his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he shows him the letter jacket that Marcus gave him.
That's why Marcus is they're both wearing all the bling. It's each other's class ring.
God, I did not
Okay.
understand that at all. Because they immediately
It wasn't really that tough. I got to tell you.
they just cut right back to the sinister guy. Like it's just like
Yeah.
a really strange edit or something.
It is. And it's a weird reading too on Salah's part. He's like, ha ha ha, I'm his. Hi.
Well, and
Yeah.
then like
Yeah.
it's really Marcus says something weird. Like he almost like he's stoned. He says, "Our reputation precedes me."
My reputation
yeah.
precedes
He
me.
says, "Our
No, he
reputation
doesn't.
precedes
Stop
me."
No, he thinks it's my.
This is mine.
The script says my.
The movie says
Oh,
mine.
does I
Yeah, I think
listened
it
to
does
that
too.
several
Mine.
times. I thought he says, "Our reputation precedes me," but he says proceeds, not precedes, which is even weirder. And it made me think, like, okay, so if his reputation, like, maybe they're such, bumbling, goofy knockanolums, it's like now their reputation. You're right. Now your reputation proceeds you.
Now let me introduce you to my wife, Denise.
Yeah.
Possibly the best line ever.
All right.
I do though I like that line because Indy's reputation always precedes him, and Brody I think envisions himself, whether he is or not, as just a slightly older version of Indy.
Yeah.
Like when he said he'd go after the Ark, but in the Indy he's just kind of deluding himself, just like he is here.
He's
It's
just
like,
plain
my
tickled.
reputation. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's. I think he's enjoying being kind of an Indiana Jones figure for a
Yeah.
minute,
Yeah.
even though it very quickly changes.
Then we get this whole newspaper business,
Yeah, yeah.
which is It's good. It like a lot of things in this movie, it's fine when you just sort of watch it. But if you're annoying enough to watch it minute by minute and like study it and everything, you're like, boy, this wouldn't happen in real life. This is like really weird. Like, like it goes on a little too long for like the bad guys not to be like, all right, you're about to punch one of us in the face. You're trying to tell Marcus to run away.
Yeah.
Like we got it. But it's fun.
Although in this, there's a deleted scene here.
Oh,
that they did not. I think they filmed it, but they did not put it in the movie. They replaced it with this, where Sallah punches a camel that you see at the end of this minute, and the camel spits mucus all over the Nazis, and they make their getaway.
What?
That actually makes a ton of sense in a weird way, because the cut from Marcus punching the guy to the next shot is really bad and really confusing. Because all of a sudden you go from punching the guy to like, there's a camel in the foreground, and there's like a
giant
camel. Just like a crowd and like a stand or something. You don't know what's going on until the stand falls over. You're like, oh, I guess I see Sallah back there. Okay, I guess I'm in the same scene.
You said Marcus punching the guy, Tommy.
Oh, did I?
Yes, but we know that that's false.
Well, they're tight. They're a couple.
Yeah, but Marcus hasn't
Sallah
punched
punches,
anybody in this stinking movie. No. Wow. It is kind of a strange scene. I agree.
Mm-hmm. There are stills of Sallah with his arm cocked to punch the camel.
Right. Well, it's also like he's telling him. I think it's amazing how Sallah goes. Run. They're like papers. Like, of course, run. And you're like, this is rad. And of course, it's a perfect example of, I'll just say it kind of quietly and not make a big deal out of it. But Marcus Brody doesn't understand, and it's one more failure, and he can't even understand the simple run command. Like he fails at every single thing in the movie.
You know what's sad that I'm realizing, based on my stance on Marcus? I just don't want him in this movie. I don't want him to be on an adventure because he's going to be like... I think this is accurate of how Marcus would be in this kind of situation, but I don't think I need to see that. I think I just want to have him back at college.
We never understood why he had to come to begin with. Because it's his whole little shtick and his whole deal in Venice. He goes... I'll get two. Like two. He's like, Marcus, get me a ticket to Skedron. He's like, I'll get two. Or wherever it is, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's like, why is he even at Barnett College? Like, the whole thing is kind of...
Yeah.
It's like, I always bring it back to Star Trek, but it's just like on the Star Trek movies, they just have to come up with increasingly bizarre reasons to bring the crew all back.
Yeah.
Get us Uhura.
Yeah.
Immediately, for some reason.
And everyone's an admiral now, and everyone's like...
I'm going to go out and say I actually really like Sallah here. He does an incredible job. Sure. And he's like, of course, run. And he's like, run. Yeah. and they just make Marcus bumbling, and you're like, oh, dude can't even, he can't even run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I do think, though, when I'm annoyed with Marcus in this movie? I'm thinking, well, Denham Elliott probably had a ball. He probably loved doing all this stuff, and he probably had a ball. So good for him.
Yeah, I think all these people genuinely really liked each other. Although I don't think Denham Elliott actually had a ball because he was...
Oh, he was sick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
He was sick. Yeah.
Well, I guess
take it all back, Gerry.
Yeah. There's our minute.
Well, I'll change the subject to something happy.
Yes, please.
Okay. This was filmed in about 20 miles east of Granada in Spain, and a lot of these scenes coming up are filmed in Spain. So they did. I think this was a great choice. Like, this looks.
Oh yeah.
Like it could be Turkey or Syria.
Well, this. I mean, this is also a little bit of a Cairo throwback, little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of feel comfortable again. Once again, the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, anybody have any? I'm assuming nobody has anything else. Christy's here.
Christy right here.
No,
so
well, speaking. Wait a minute. Speaking of comfort zones or uncomfort zones, or well, slightly bigger, larger comfort zones. This just coming in over the wires from the largest Billy Goat Gruff, Professor. No, what is she?
Esquire, Mimi Porter.
Oh yes, Mimi Porter, Esquire.
She's your sister, Mimi.
Please don't tell her I messed that up.
All right.
I'd like to propose a challenge to you guys and to those on the Listeners' Crusade. Can someone come up with a ruckus-themed name for the newspaper Sallah has? For instance, the Daily Brawler.
Oh, all right.
The
Have at it, Crusade.
the Iskendron pre-scrap.
The morning melee.
It's a newspaper now, but it's going to be scrap paper later on.
The morning melee. It's pretty good.
Yep.
All right. Well, yeah. So we got a lot going on in the Listeners Crusade apparently today. And if you don't know how to find the Listeners Crusade, just go to Facebook and look up Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade. And after you've done that and taken the poll and come up with a great newspaper name, why don't you join us back here tomorrow for minute 57 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Yeah, do that.
Listen, Tommy, it's a sad minute, okay?
It's tough, but I'm trying so
all right.
hard.
It's just a
I'm
sad
trying
minute.
so hard. I want everyone to be happy.
I know. I feel terrible. No, you're working hard. Here's a hand. Here, let me throw you one of them lifesavers from the Coronado.
I love you, Gerry.
Let me just pat your shoulders.
Chicken
Yeah, I'll
feather
square
off
you up. Tommy Taylor!
Yeah.
Sir Tommy! Pat, 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 pat. Where's Pete?
Oh. He's not here yet.